your hosts, Tamlin, Hylas, Lucy, and Flatus. Connecting gamers with the games they play.
Hello and welcome to EverCast, live from Desert Rain Studio. We are an online gaming podcast talking about all things fun and interesting in the world of online gaming and bringing the conversation back to EverQuest Next wherever we can, connecting gamers with the game they play. I am one of your normal weekly regular host, Hanlon. And I'm joined here by my two other co-hosts. I'll give them a second to introduce themselves and say hi.
Hi, I'm Celeste.
Hi, I'm Lucy.
So hi guys. How have you been? How have you been doing?
Why don't we let Lucy go first since she was gone? Although I guess I was gone too. I mean,
I'm good. I was actually in California for a week, so I wasn't able to make last show, and I wasn't going to make the two previous shows actually, but we ended up not being able to do last week's show, so I only technically missed one show. California was awesome. It was nice and, well, warm to me. I'm not sure if I'm echoing, but I'm sorry if I am.
Yeah, I've got an echo coming back from someplace.
I'm checking mine really quick to make sure.
Question from chat, where in California? I went to Los Angeles, specifically Manhattan Beach. It was really nice, really, really nice. I'm not used to palm trees or 60 to 65 degree Fahrenheit weather in the middle of January, so that was kind of a nice change of pace for me in the middle of January.
Quick question, is that better on the end? And we'll wait for chat to catch up.
Yeah. So obviously, I will mention Flatus is out this week. He's got a parent in town. And yes, apologies for being out last week. I was occupied with her other hobbies. Lucy was in California, and I was supposed to be doing it with Flatus. However, I got caught pretty much out cold, sick, with either the flu or a migraine. It was both. It was in my head and my sinuses. It sucked.
Yeah, my other hobbies.
So Kai has a horse. She has to train it. That's where she was at pretty much all last weekend and the weekend, or excuse me, all this weekend and last weekend as well.
I have a horse.
Okay. So just a little catching up with what I've been up to. If you're familiar with World of Warcraft, they released a new mount that was only available for killing the last raid boss for this expansion, Archimond, the second time. Because, alternate timelines and stuff, you have to kill him again. If you killed him on heroic difficulty, you earned a quest item, and the quest item rewarded you with the flying moose, the friendship moose, as it has been dubbed, because you kind of have to get your friends together to go get it. Because heroic, you can do a pickup group, a pug group into a heroic raid, but for the most part, you need an organized group. And on Thursday, we finally managed to clear out the entire instance on heroic mode. So now we're like, well, now what do we do? And so we might try doing mythic. Not sure yet.
Let me just state that I already have that mount. My husband paid $50K.
And then, of course, for
Wait,
our...
you paid for it?
Yeah,
paid gold for it.
Like, he paid for a carry.
Oh.
Not real cash. The thing is that in World of Warcraft, if you have about 4 or 5 max level characters, you can play Warcraft for free now, as long as you're doing the garrison missions that everybody hates. You can play for free just by buying WoW tokens. I like leveling characters, so I have 20 odd max level characters. So I have a lot of extra gold floating around, and so I was like, hey, everybody, you get a moose and you get a moose, everybody gets a moose, because I could pay for it. Basically it's on a server I don't even play on anymore. So you have all this gold sitting around on a server you don't play on anymore. It's like, why not? I'll just spend my gold. Lucy does not look...
I'm so out of touch with World of Warcraft now that I'm just like, okay, yeah, friendship is, yeah, great, awesome. The only mount I remember actually needing to pay for with in-game gold was, like, 2 actually. One was the motorcycle, which you needed an engineer friend to make for you, or an engineer just in general. But I had a friend who was an engineer who I didn't have to pay. I just had to pay for the materials,
the parts. And
then the Drake, the one that turns you into a Drake and allows other people to ride you.
Vial of the Sands.
That one. I remember having to pay an alchemist to make that. Well, I didn't. I had a friend who was an alchemist. I gave him the reagents. Again, he made it for me.
So, for I should throw up ECast news because that's what we're talking about. As far as our schedule is going, next week, I told Flatus we can't put it off any longer. He's got the whole show. We're talking about Final Fantasy XIV for the entire hour-long show. It's not going to be like a subtopic or just a little blurb. We're going to really get into what he loves so much about Final Fantasy XIV and why I found it so hard to get into. And Kylest and Lucy have played it a little bit and what they thought of it.
Also found it really hard to get into.
And then the following week is February 7th, which is the Super Bowl. We might do a show, but don't count on it. We will know for sure when all 4 of us get together and powwow about what we would like to do. The following Sunday after that is February 14th, and I am a man who loves to live. I like living, and if I make any other plans on that particular date, I will be dead.
Well, it's a big deal.
Just to explain for those of you who know, it's not just Valentine's Day, it's Valentine's Day, it's our wedding anniversary, it's birthday.
If you didn't catch that, because she kind of didn't drop really quiet, it's her birthday as well. So I managed to, I don't know, I guess
Luck the fuck out.
I did. I threw all of those dates on one. So if I ever forget it or plan anything else on
You'll
that
never
day,
find his body again.
Exactly. So I will not be doing a show. Kai will probably not doing a show. So it's up to Lucy and Flatus, but I'm thinking that they're not going to want to either.
Yeah, probably not.
Go out and get laid, people. Or drunk. Or both. With permission. Ever.
Do the thing that you do.
We shouldn't have to tell our listeners that they need to find consenting adults. We shouldn't have to say that.
Well, it'd be like New Year's Eve, right? It's like that meme, that cartoon that went out, right? It's so like the gamer's playing the game, and it goes 11:59, and the gamer's playing the game. It says 12 o'clock, and he's got like a little sparkler or something up, and then at 12:01, he's back playing the game. I mean, I could see people doing something like that for Valentine's Day too, where it's like I'm gonna game and then
That's exactly what he did on New Year's Eve. I'm gaming. Oh, look. Woo! Champagne. Okay, we're done. I'm gaming.
I was playing board games and drinking, so there's that.
If I had friends in the neighborhood, I'd probably have like gone over and we'd do something like that. But
At the end, I was like, I can't even read these rules. Let's not play a new game. I'm too drunk for this. What are these even words? What do these even mean? They don't mean anything.
right. So we decided that we were going to do our show this episode about Hero Song, and there's more stuff coming on later on, but this is part one. This is the first part. We gave Smedley a ration of well, no, he deserved it, so I wouldn't say it's even a ration of shit or crap. But we were definitely hard on him, deservedly so. He moved on from Daybreak after we did an episode where we kind of went to question his leadership skills. But at the same time, Smedley is a veteran in the industry. He, like, you can say what you want about Daybreak, but H1Z1 is a fun, successful game. Lucy, raising your... Oh, you're petting your ear. So I've been following along to see about what he's doing next, as he said that he's doing something next, and he's teased it out a couple of times on Twitter, and he finally revealed it to the world over the last week or so. The name of the game is called Hero Song. It is currently up on Kickstarter, which I will get to you a link in just a second. And so we thought that he's got some very familiar concepts that he's trying to put into a video game. But first off, one of the ones that leaped out at me, one of the things that I think is actually on the cutting edge of video games that people want, is the idea of hosting their own server, hosting their own world. The idea of getting a server for your friends and your friends' friends in a small, not massively multiplayer online game, but a large multiplayer online game where you get to control, not like being super dictator or micromanaging, but you get to actually control how the world flows based on your own rule sets and host a game for your friends.
And I
actually
would rule with an iron fist. No, I'm just kidding.
What's that line from Lord of the Rings? I shall be beautiful as the morning dawn and terrible, or something like that. When
beautiful and terrible as the dawn, all shall love me and despair.
Despair, yeah. I could see Lucy doing something like that.
Yeah, what, me? Yeah.
You had the line memorized.
Well, it's not... I do that with movies, I'm sorry. But to be fair, it was a particularly powerful line for me as well, because I was like, yes.
Right. It actually is part of the mythos of the Lord of the Rings, is you couldn't get any of the elves the rings because they would, be corrupted by it, and they would be pretty much like the worst thing that could possibly happen, other than getting practice
because
wrong.
they're immortal. They're already immortal and super powerful with like magic and shit. You don't. What?
And she also already had one of the elf rings.
Yeah.
All right,
But
so
she resisted.
And she even said, "And now I
Good
can
on
pass
her.
on to the world."
I was
But
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I don't know if I could.
I'm more like a hobbit anyway. Good food, good drink. What do I need all power for? Don't.
I just want second breakfast. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Now you get me a ring that manifests pies, we'll talk.
So hosting and being able to manage your own server. We've seen a lot of games be successful with this concept. Minecraft obviously is the biggest example of this, but Terraria, Shards Online is another new game that's doing it. I think that it is the next. As we were talking about before the show, is like 2 weekends ago, I was playing a game of Civ 5 with like 5 other people, and even last night with the Theory Forge guy, I was playing Talisman Online. So the idea of getting away from playing games with strangers, right? So you're not playing with a bunch of other strangers on a massive server, you're playing, with your friends and your friends' friends. So, 20 to 30 people, 40 people, 50 people.
I think it helps. I think it does two things. One, it takes out the anonymity. So everybody who's playing on your server, you know who's playing on your server, you know who they are, you can ban them if you want, and I think it helps player accountability. You can't just run around being a giant jerk to everyone on the server, because people know who you are and they can kick you off. But the other thing is that I met a lot of really cool people just by having to make friends with strangers. So I don't like that part of MMOs is kind of falling by the wayside, but at the same time, I went through WoW on a PvP server and it sucked. Like, sometimes people were just jerks, and it's not even the opposite faction. Sometimes people were just jerks. So I wish that there was a way to balance those two things where you could have player accountability, like immediate player accountability, where somebody would be like, nope, you're being a dick, done, but still have that need to meet new people.
Right, and it goes back to the whole idea of a community culture, right? The slight differences in how people play with one another might be really put offish or upsetting to players, and so you're allowed to hey, my friends actually, we like doing things like this and we don't like doing things like that, so we're going to play over here and you guys can play over there, and everything is copacetic because we're playing on our server and you're playing on yours. And I think that that's one of the reasons why the massive MMOs are never going to go away, because Warcraft is the best Warcraft game out there. I didn't say MMO, I said Warcraft. So, if you want to go and meet people, it basically gives you more choices in how you want to play. If I want to play just with my friends, I don't want to deal with, breaking the ice and meeting new people, I don't have to. Kai, would you like to weigh in? Because I know that you played on a hosted server for Minecraft.
Yeah, but my friend was hosting it, and the only people that ever got in on the server were people that were invited with passwords.
Did you like that, or would you like to have played Minecraft on a server where it was open to the public?
Fuck other people. I was glad it was just friends.
I think things like Minecraft and Landmark, when you're building something and you're creating something, you don't want somebody else to come down the beach and kick over your sandcastle. It's kind of different when you are talking about very real consequences to allowing other people control of something that you've made. I think that's why, for example, when you play World of Warcraft on a PvP server, somebody can kill your character, but your character's not dead forever. It doesn't get deleted off of your character list. But if you invite somebody else to play on your Minecraft server, they can knock down your castle, they can mine it for resources, they can completely screw up everything that you've done, and that sucks. You made something and somebody else ruined it, which is probably how all authors feel about fanfic. But I think it's a very, people have a very visceral reaction when they see something that they've created be destroyed completely.
Yeah, going through the list, Star Citizen is also one of those games that's saying that they're going to allow for people to host their own servers. So, one of the things that Smedley mentioned in his Reddit AMA, and I am trying to we talked about this a little bit before the show, and I want to get further clarification from him. The idea so one of the turnoffs to hosting your server is that not many people have the bandwidth or the computer that can run a server for 30 to 50 people. But Smedley in his AMA made it seem like that was possible on just one PC. And Lucy brought up a great point, that it actually might be possible.
Well, with 2D art and the fact that I was just watching the video on their website about how they animate their characters. They animated one of their skeletons with just 8 frames. So you're not hosting or you're not saving a lot of graphics data or you wouldn't have to utilize a lot of that data. It would just be, I mean, it's 2D. You said something about positioning in the world is easier because of that. There's no three dimensions.
And that's when we were talking, it was like all of a sudden, as soon as you reminded me that it was 2D, all of a sudden when you're calculating distances and locations of things, like in a three-dimensional world, you have XYZ axes, axes. But when you're in 2 dimensions, you only have X and Y, so it makes calculations much simpler. So I think that would actually be huge to be able to host like 50 people on your own server without having to get a secondary server solution like renting server space or renting, one of those, hey, we provide professional Minecraft, servers for you and your friends. Like if you don't have to do that, that's actually really cool.
I was actually, the first thing that I thought of when it says that like you can make your own worlds, like you can you could spool up your own world and you can pick like which deities that you allow in your world. I was like, I'm gonna have a world with only goddesses. Now what? They're just gonna fight. They're just gonna be at each other's throats because that's what happens. Also, side note, did you guys notice that the goddess of fertility is like an evil deity?
Did not notice.
I'm guessing that that's an interesting way to say she's like the goddess of lust.
In my world, lust is not evil.
You know what I mean? It's like, well, it's not. But I'm just saying that a lot. I don't remember. I think it was Pathfinder who. Their elves have the goddess of like revenge and lust and stuff, and they're like elves. What? She's what? They're just very backstabby in that world, I guess.
I could see an argument that you could make that the feelings of revenge and lust are similar.
What?
Not lust, more. No, I was, my mind was going a different place. I wasn't, she's looking over at me like, yeah.
And also, okay, so I have another point to bring up. If your character gets to level 50 and they go through the trials and ascend to godhood, your character can become a god. I'm just saying, Goddess Lucy sounds like really nice, and I think that needs to happen. But how do they pick your sphere of influence? Is it based on your race? Is it based on your class? Is it based on the decisions that you made? How do they decide what you're the god or goddess of? And how does that shape a new world?
I'm sure that might have to be something that they update later on or expand upon. Because it is, of course, something that we as the players that are going to be playing it, like we want to know all that information ahead of time, because as we're leveling from 1 to 50, if the decisions that we're making in that leveling process dictate how we become, like what our spheres are, where we become gods, it's going to change the way that we play the game, right?
Well, no, it won't. I just want to see what kind of deity I'd become if I played like true to who I am. That says something about yourself or their AI engine. Either way.
Yeah. So speaking about the AI, one of the things that we know is that Dave Mark is one of the principal AI programmers for the for Hero Song, and I invite you all, if you haven't checked them all out already. He is I am Dave Mark on Twitter. He does AI panels at GDC, that's Game Developers Conference, on a regular basis. Most of them go up on the web and you can listen to them, but he has basically got a set pattern of how he likes to do the AI, and there's nothing about Hero Song that they've talked about that makes me think that they're doing anything different. Which means it's going to be influence maps, and it's going to be prioritizing your NPCs as factions, so that they look at the map
their needs
and
their wants. Like elves want forests, elves want this, the elves want that, and they prioritize where they can find those things, and then they find a spot on the map to go, which sounds very similar to EverQuest Next's bullet points as to how their NPCs are going to work.
And okay, so somebody mentioned the EverQuest part of the equation, and from our conversation, this looks like it's going to be the two of the pillars from EverQuest Next on a 2D game platform, and that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Hero
That's actually
song, Row song. No, I'm not. Maybe.
right. So it's I'm spacing here. Emergent AI and Game of Choice, Legacy of Choice, World of Consequence.
World of Consequence.
World of Consequence. That's what I was looking to articulate, speak clearly. So it looks like it's going to be those two pillars from EverQuest Next thrown into a 2D environment. It looks like it's going to be a good game, as long as it can deliver on those two things.
Well, I mean, they do have permanent death, so that sounds like a consequence to me.
That was the
Look at that segue. Look at that segue. It was beautiful. You're welcome. Thank you.
But are we? So
Thank you, Goddess Lucy.
So
I
are
could
we?
get used to this. I really could.
So are we ready to jump back into a game that has real player death?
In a game where you can host your own world, why not? I mean, it doesn't sound like this is a game where you're going to be raiding. It doesn't sound like this is going to be a game where there are dungeons as we know them. So you don't have to die to learn a lesson in this game, it sounds like. Or maybe you do. Maybe the trials that you have to go through when you die to get back into the game are going to help.
I don't know. I remember that like, okay, so if we're going back to our first tabletop gaming experiences, D&D, there was real character death. And then even my first, the scrolling text-based MMO that I first got into, there was real character death. Your characters could really die. And then I jumped into Vanguard where there was no real character death, but my goodness, there was a death penalty because they didn't have soulbound gear, right? Like just like EverQuest. So if you died, you had to go on a corpse run to grab your gear because none of it was on you anymore. And then there was the experience point hit.
Wait, what game was that?
I think he said it was Vanguard, Kai. I think he said Vanguard.
I just making sure that it was Vanguard he was talking about, because I wasn't sure if it was Vanguard, but I think it was Vanguard.
So what are you guys thinking? Are you liking a game with a severe death penalty or a real or not real character death, final character death, or do you like
I'm a wuss and I'm totally attached to my character. If it dies, I'm done. Sorry. Not my thing.
I'm in both camps. There are games where I can be very, very attached to my character. If you told me that that World of Warcraft was now going to instill a thing where if your character died, it was dead, I'd be like, no. I didn't run on that gear treadmill for like 70 real life hours in order for you to delete my character. But,
only 70?
Well, yeah, you know what I mean. You know what I mean.
And I totally get that when there are like, I was talking with some other people about raiding in World of Warcraft and raiding in World of Warcraft, because there are so many online guides and tutorials on how to beat the game mechanics. It's really a game of execution. Like all you have to do is find someone who has the tactic already figured out for you and then execute on that tactic or modify the tactic that works best for your group. But the thing is that what happens when you fail to execute on that in a raid?
That's my point. Like
everybody dies.
You can't have the mechanics of raids and dungeons in a game where if your character's even dead or struck down, they have to go through these trials, because it basically puts the kibosh to the whole dungeon. Like, oh well, guess we're not doing a dungeon tonight. Everybody's got to go through their trials now. But at the same time, what does that mean for when your character gets hired? I like a game where I can take risks no matter what level I am. And if I get up to, like, you're level 49, you're not gonna, like, be like, well, I'm gonna take that dungeon. I don't know if I can take it, but I'm gonna do it just in case. Like, you might think
You're gonna play super, super cautious, and you're gonna be like tiptoeing, like I don't know.
I'm gonna kill rabbits until I'm 50. Like, maybe not. I mean, we don't know what the death trials are gonna be like, but that is something that I might think that I might do, because you want to get to that 50. You want your character to become a god. I mean, I've already got my title figured out.
Yeah, so I think that that's one of the, like, simply by saying that there's going to be a death mechanic, that where final death is going to be a real consequence, not like an inevitable consequence, but it's something that you're going to have to deal with and think about every time your character dies. You're going to play super conservatively, and raiding, the idea of dungeon crawling is not going to be what you're going to be doing in the game, because you're going to be like, that the risk of me dying is just way too high going down there, and I don't know.
I hope that it's done in a way where the death trial is something interesting, but something that you don't want to go through more than like a handful of times. But I also want there to be real danger in the world, and I want to feel like I can risk the danger as well. So it's going to be a very fine line, very, very interesting balancing act that they have to do in order to make both of those things good. Does that make sense?
It totally does. And I was just thinking that that if you want to look at an example of a game that's figured out, and I Diablo 3 on hard mode, where if you die, you finally die. They found that how to make the game fun and at the same time punish you for failure. So it has been done. I can think of other examples of games where they have that same sort of, like, there's that narrow area in the middle between way too hard and not fun, or not too easy, and it totally negates the mechanic in the first place, right? Because if you're going to put I keep saying real death, final death, like, of your character, if you're going to put that in the game, it's got to be a meaningful consequence. If you make it too easy, people are just like, oh, whatever. And it's just like every other MMO, where as soon as you die, you resurrect.
But on the flip side of that same token is, you want that ascension to godhood to also mean something. You don't want everybody to have a god character. But I mean, then again, maybe you do, because that makes starting a new world with like all of your friends imported as gods kind of cool.
Yeah, I'd totally do that. Either that, or what I would
firm
do.
but benevolent.
I would level 5 characters and make them all 50, and then reboot, create my own world where all of my old characters are the gods of that realm.
Yeah, he would.
I would do that.
But I'd read it fine. All hail Goddess Lucy, the whole Tanlin crap, because he would be like, he would be malevolent. He wouldn't be benevolent.
I don't know. One of the things that we actually talk about before the show, and we actually didn't write down as a talking point, but because the AI is going to be so part of the game experience, do you think that opens up avenues for role-playing better? And do you think that matters? Because in Smedley's AMA, I'm going to go back and look for the link. He said something along the lines of, if somebody kills an NPC shop, person in town, the NPC is dead. They don't just respawn.
Yeah, that shop's permanently closed. Yes and no. I think that if this were a D&D campaign, it sounds like a D&D campaign to me. So, being able to pick the gods that are in that area, figuring out where having it be different every time you make a new world, like that sort of thing. That sounds very D&D, like a tabletop role-playing game sort of thing. And I just don't know if our peers are going to be drawn to this game because it's 2D. A lot of our
Good point.
peers, like for example, Guild Wars 2 has a huge RP community, and that's because of customization. Like you can customize your character, you can customize your armors, you can buy cosmetics on the shop, and it's all about customization. Our peers really want their character to reflect what they're playing. So it all depends on how customizable your character is and how long you can keep your character alive, because a lot of people don't want to put in the time to creating a backstory to a character that's going to final die, like experience the final death in their first adventure. It's always a risk when you play D&D, but if you have a good DM, it's not a risk in your first dungeon, if that makes sense. And the other thing is that role players tend to like their characters to be pretty. Like they want their character to look how they're picturing in their mind, or at least somewhere close to that. They want, like, I'm a rogue, I want to wear like leathers with lots of pockets for my like lock picking tools and things. Like they want their character to be what they're thinking about in their head. So I'm not sure if that's going to translate well to a 2D environment, but everything else about it says that it would be great for role playing.
Yeah, you said something about the beginning of that the it sounds a lot like a game campaign, and it totally does, because you would play, like, with your friends, and you'd be like, oh, here's this dungeon, and then there's that dungeon, and then there's this dungeon, and you string them all together throughout like a story arc, and at the end you finish your campaign, right? And this sounds like almost exactly like a campaign, right? So that you create the world, you put your players in that world, and you let them play and see, how many people ascend to godhood before they die. And we're talking about customizations on the rules. I think that it would be cool to be like, hey, everybody, we play until like the first 5 people ascend through, and then we restart, and then we play it through again. And that would be because when you're trying to make a game, one of the other things that you like looking at is like, is it replayable? Can you play it through multiple times?
It does sound like it has a lot of replayability value if there's a way to share your ascended characters in a broad, like more than just to just your friends, but also to like people that don't know you. I think it would be cool to be able to share your character, but then again, if that's true, you need that to be rare. You need ascension to godhood to be a difficult thing, or else it's going to be like The Sims, where everybody makes a sim and puts it up on the gallery, so nobody downloads them, because why?
Right. All right, before, like I said, we have 2 parts to our show tonight. The first part was going to be about Heroe's song. Before I move on to the next part, is there any last final thoughts on this particular?
I did want to touch on the whole magic system and the fact that it's being touted as hardcore. It's hardcore, like the game's being touted as hardcore, but what does that mean? Because it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So I'm looking forward to hearing more information about that. And the whole magic system sounds really complex and intricate, and I'm hoping that doesn't mean that magic users are extremely hard to play, whereas something like a warrior is really easy to play because all you need is a sword. But if magic users are difficult to play or do require a lot of questing, spell component spell component discovery, and going through dungeons to find those hard spell components, etc., etc. I hope that they balance it and make magic users completely badass, because I always like playing magic users, but if it's disproportionately difficult to play a magic user, I just hope that the classes are balanced enough so that it's difficult across the board.
Right, and that's the old school D&D example is that like for the first 3 or 4 levels, the magic user in your party was pretty useless. They had like 1 spell a day and 4 hit points. So it was like, it's like you just stand in the back and we basically carry you as dead weight until you get to like until you get your fireball spell, and then you're a one-shot trick. It's like, okay, the big boss is there, nuke it with the fireball, and then we'll rush in with the fighters that have been carrying your weight for the last 3 or 4 levels. And so that's one of the things that, like, if the magic system is too complex and like it's hard to progress in your power levels, then that's what it's going to feel like if you're trying to play a magic user. Kailas, anything? That's fine. All right. Well, the part 2. Flatus and I have been talking about this for quite a while. It's the Twin Galaxies, and it's their Right to Game campaign. They started an Indiegogo campaign that looks like they closed on the 13th. I'll put a link in chat. Kai, you're gonna have to say that again. No one heard you.
What? It's that my mother taught me if I didn't have anything nice to say, I shouldn't say anything at all.
Anyway, so Twin Galaxy, and I linked the Indiegogo campaign on it. So one of the we haven't written it down anywhere. It's always something in the back of our head. Is that one of the goals of the EverCast show is to let you know that it is okay to be a gamer. That you can just take out all of those negative stereotypes about what it is to be a gamer and just toss them aside. They don't apply anymore. This is the 2016. Gamers are not only successful, sociable people. You'll run into them in every aspect of your life as long as there's nothing to look down on gamers for anymore. The problem, it's not even a problem. One of the things that Twin Galaxies wants to address, and this is in their Indiegogo campaign, is to increase the social awareness of other gamers, to make it easier to find them and to watch what they're doing, to be involved in what gamers are doing. So this probably won't take long, but they're on their link. The number one thing that I am looking forward to in the success of this campaign, or I wish I knew more about Indiegogo, but I think that Indiegogo, they earn whatever money is pledged to them, regardless of whether or not they have a successful campaign. Which means that though they didn't get the $250,000 that they were asking for, they might have gotten some of the money they were asking for through their pledges. But they want to do a new content development for the Twin Galaxies live streaming network that broadcasts player-centric gaming content every day. And I think that is huge, and that is something that I would like. I would love to have. We had talked about before the show. Oh, hey. We talked about it before the show. I'm sorry, I got distracted by reading something. We talked about it before the show that, like, while I'm working around the house, right? Like maybe I'm doing the dishes or I don't know, sweeping the floor, doing my laundry, folding it, or whatever. I like to listen to television in the background. A lot of times I'll throw on a radio station or I'll throw on ESPN because I like listening to sports. And I'm not focused 100% on what's going on. I just like listening to something in the background. I would love to have a gaming network where if I didn't catch the League of Legends finals, or if I missed an interview with a game developer talking about this new feature for a game that they're launching, I could basically catch it on just by throwing on a network and having all of that information brought to me that way. And Vitorian asks, doesn't Twitch do this? And it kind of does. The thing that Twitch doesn't do very well is it doesn't aggregate, in my opinion, and people can disagree with it, doesn't aggregate that information very well. Like if you look at Reddit, if you go to the gaming subreddit, at least Reddit allows people to pull in all of that information, and then as other gamers vote for it, the more relevant and useful information rises to the top, and the non-useful information floats to the bottom. And so if you always, if you go to Reddit gaming once a day, you might see something new and interesting every day. I don't think that the front page of Twitch does a very good job of highlighting what's going on in the world, because like there might be a huge League of Legends tournament at 2 a.m. because they're playing in an Asian time zone. By the time 5 or 6 o'clock rolls around and I'm off work, they're not talking about League of Legends, that tournament anymore. Yes, one of the notes I have, I want ESPN for gaming. And it's great that you mentioned that is because ESPN finally added an esport tab to their website. So I know I did a lot of talking on that. I wish that Flatus was here because he would talk a little bit more, because he was actually really interested on one of the other things that they were talking about, where they did their core website for Twin Galaxies, preserve and promote video game high scores and world records, so that you could, it's basically like the Video Game Hall of Fame. They want to incorporate that into their website. And he was super stoked about that. And I was just like, I don't know if I necessarily care so much about that.
Obviously, anybody who makes it on there, we're going to have to screen for steroids, because they might be using performance-enhancing drugs to get their scores.
Did you? What was it
that was completely tongue-in-cheek, just so that everybody who's listening at home and not seeing the video responses, that I did not mean that. I think it's silly. Besides, they probably all register as on something.
All right, then all we have left is our final thoughts, and then our Do Better segment with Tamlin. So final thoughts. I am not going. I've sworn off Kickstarters. I don't do Kickstarters anymore. But Heroe's song has shown you. Heroe's song has showed me enough that when they actually have pre-orders or orders available where I can purchase the game, I will probably pick it up. $20 is not a big risk for a game, especially when Smedley says that there will be no microtransactions ever in this game. You buy the game once, and they are like, if you don't like, go to Reddit and look at his comments about that. He doesn't ever want to get into that market again because it's too complicated. Anybody else?
Final thoughts. I bashed my ear. Whoops. Final thoughts. I have never backed a Kickstarter. And I'm kind of on the fence about Heroe's song. I love it. I love the idea of it. I'm not sure how much I can get into the 2D environment. I'd like some more information, but there's only 24 days before we back the Kickstarter, and I'm not sure exactly how much more information we're going to get. But if you guys don't know this, the game is going to be $19.99 when it comes out, so it is a one-time purchase. You're done with the game. There's no microtransactions. They've said, bam, you buy the game, that's done. We're done. We've made our money. That's our business model. And right now you can actually pick up the game for $15 on the Kickstarter. It gets you the game. That's it. You buy the game for $15 if you back them now, or you can pay $25 and get 2 copies of the game. I don't know. I will probably end up backing it in the end because I've always been a fan of EverQuest and EverQuest titles. It's got Bill Trost and Smedley working on it. It has a Twitch partner, which I'm really interested to see where that goes. If you guys don't know about it, Co-Carnage is a partner to pick. I'm not sure if it's just for Hero Song or if it's for Pixelmage Games in general, but he's listed as a partner. They have an author on staff, so that they probably are going to have really good stories woven into the game. I will probably pick it up, but I'm not sure if the art style is going to keep me interested for a long time, like a traditional 3D first-person or third-person MMO would.
Final thoughts. Not my kind of game, but would be interested in hearing how my friends feel about it once they've gotten the chance to play. I don't back Kickstarters ever again. And all hail Goddess Lucy.
50 faction.
All right.
I earn faction with C faster than my husband earns it with me.
Well, I'm benevolent.
No, I have a horse, so I can't say that.
That's true.
I have a horse. He
That's
let
a
me
pretty
get a horse. I have a horse.
That's a pretty sweet faction reward right there.
I got you a pony. Well, I didn't get you a pony, but I allowed, like, the family, she has a pony now.
I have a tattoo of my
I
pony's freeze mark.
That he allowed her to have a pony. He's like, that's not true. He gave up halfway through the sentence.
Right?
Yeah. It's like, it's kind of hard to explain, but yeah.
It was basically, the horse doesn't stay here. Okay.
You supported the desire for her to have a pony, and you helped make her dreams a reality.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're welcome.
Mm-hmm.
All hail Goddess Lucy. Thank you for giving me words. So,
That's gonna be a thing now. I hope it's a thing now.
I hope Kai's gonna be okay.
All I require is your complete and total devotion to me.
Don't you have the Goblin King's line memorized from Labyrinth?
Oh, too soon.
Well, that's where
Go to hell.
that is where I was going for the do better for this episode. If you didn't catch it when we did the show 2 weeks ago, we added in a new segment at the end, and it's called Do Better with Tamlin. It's basically me finding something in the world of video games where I look at them and I tell them...
So glad he added in the world of video games.
I look around and I say that this particular thing needs to do better. It's not necessarily a rant, but it could be read as a rant. But this is not, however, a really ranty topic. It's actually supposed to be inspirational, and we'll see if I can deliver. As Kylest and Lucy alluded to, Goblin King from Labyrinth was David Bowie, who is a songwriter, singer, actor, all-around artistic genius who passed away at the beginning of this year after releasing his 25th studio album. If you're not familiar with David Bowie, I invite you to look at his legendary career, and I don't throw around that term very lightly. He
I swear to
challenged.
God, if you make me cry.
He challenged and shattered stereotypes and paradigms all along his 25-year career, and didn't even stop in the moment of his death. Like, even if you look at his last album and read into it what he was trying to say as his final message, it's deep. So my do better is not to him, it's to us. That we need to do better, that we all have our creative and artistic desires inside of ourselves. I'd like to believe, and if you don't think there is, I bet you could find one in you. But you can do better. You can channel that creativity and put it out there. It doesn't have to be for everyone. It might just be for you, but do it. Earlier a couple weeks ago, Lucy tweeted out a couple of short stories she had written, and I retweeted her because I believe in that do better message. And I threw out one of my own little short story teaser prologues that I had written that I need to get around and finish. because I need to do better too.
As
So
Neil Gaiman has said, make good art. That's the whole message. Make good art. However you do that. If it's with words, it's with pictures, it's with your voice, anything. Make good art. Also, I have to add on to the end of that, Alan Rickman as well. Like, fantastic actor, person. Make good art. If not for you, then for others. Make good art.
After all this time?
Always.
right, and with that, that'll do it for us on EverCast for this week. Tune in next week at 5 Pacific, 8 Eastern. On Sunday, we will be talking about Final Fantasy XIV. Flatus will be joining us again. Who wants to camp us out?
Anne.
Okay. All right. Thank you all for joining us. Oh, I forgot something. Following the broadcast, probably available later tonight, we will be on YouTube. By tomorrow, we should be available on iTunes and Stitcher. Go ahead and give us a thumbs up, a like, a follow, give us a comment, give us feedback on our show. We'd love to hear what you think about what we're talking about, and maybe we can improve somehow. We'd love to hear from you. If you don't like Stitcher or iTunes for your podcasting format, tell me what you do listen to us or what you do find for podcasts, and I'll see if we can get up on that as well. So thank you for joining us. I'm going to be camping out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good night.